Alright, what's going on guys, Slim here, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video, I have another updated PvP tier list for y'all. This one is coming off of the April meta with all the changes to cards like Banshee. Now that things have settled in a bit more, I'd like to talk about my opinion on what I think the best schools are. And real quick here, before I even say anything, I want to say every school is pretty good. If you are a good player, you can pretty much win on almost any school. So coming in at number 1, you guys probably guessed it, it is still Death. Now, Death did not see any nerfs actually within the update. I mean, we got the Banshee nerf, but Banshee was only broken because every single school ran it. So that's why I'm saying it's like Death did not really get a nerf. You know, Poison is still in the game. You know, Black Widow still in the game. Wraith TC as well. Drains are insanely above the value. There's basically just nothing this school can't do. You have the best stats in the game. You can dual school with basically anything pretty easily because of how good and accessible your stats are. You get damage, you get health, you get resist, you get pierce, you get freaking dual school ability. You have drains as well and some better overtimes than fire, for example, with like Poison and Black Widow. And then on top of that, we still have cards like Shield Gambit with Doom Oni, which just basically one shot a fire or a storm if you get set up, and it's pretty easy to do. The Spellament Wraith also is pretty good because you can simply just stun your opponent for 2 rounds and still drain for a lot. You actually got Monster Mash as well, which counters an aura, does a good bit of damage, and puts on a big -70 that your opponent just can't hit through. Reader is still the best shad in the game. It's just insane. Dream Golem is also insane. Vampire is still insanely broken. Duel is still insanely broken as well. So basically, as you can see here off of Death's catalog and their stats and the drains, there's basically just nothing this school can't do right now. If I were KI, I would look into fixing drains to make them more reasonable and balanced and make it so the school can't do everything. Right, so like, I don't know, they can't have overtimes, for example, kind of like Storm. Or maybe don't make their -70, -60 weaknesses so powerful, or, you know, Grim Reader weaknesses so powerful. Maybe look into nerfing the value on spells like Ghoul, Vampire, etc. Coming in at the number 2 spot, I'm gonna have to put Life. I think Life is a little bit worse than I thought it was, but I simply think that's because people are still farming for their Arc 2 Spellaments to actually get their Rebirth, and Gnomes maxed out to just Jade. I honestly would have put a Fire up here, but I think Life has a good chance against like Storm, and they easily just destroy Fire because they're stat diff. The only bad matchup you really have on a Life is probably a Death, but any other school, if you're a good player, you can win any matchup. It's just the fact of the matter that you have so many heals on a Life, and even if they pack the counters, like if you get Triton, you can just simply shield the blades away and then heal again, and you're probably packing like 10 heals, and they can only pack a max of 4 counters. And even if they put up a Doom, the HPP, like the heal per pip on the heals themselves, are insane. Also, the buff to the Life Scion as well, and you still have a nice little Elf Jhin combo 1-turn setup. It just really makes Life a really potent and lethal school. Combine this with the fact of the matter, Trap Stack is pretty good, and Centaur is basically the best trap counter that only Life can use. Makes them even better in the game right now. Okay, coming in at the number 3 spot. Now, this is probably going to be where things get a little more controversial. I think I'm going to have to probably put Fire up here. Now, the reason I'm putting Fire up here is, there's a lot of reasons, okay? I think Fire went from one of the worst schools to one of the best schools this update. They simply just got Fire King art, which made them a lot better. But the school is actually so good that I'm actually not choosing the bottom path Fire King art. I'm running top path, and I've won so many games off of it. So Fire's gotten to the spot where you don't have to do one specific strat. You can do multiple things and be successful on the school. Your stats have gotten buffed the last like 2 or 3 updates with Wallaroo, with the Nightmare, and before that, like Fire's offensive stats are just off the charts completely. Fire stats are off the charts. We have 200 damage just about. Our health is a little low because I'm missing a socket. I am at my resist cap. I have perfect accuracy, and I can dual school. Really good crit block, 70 pierce, 4p shad, perfect pips, and I'm not really giving anything up. The Arc 2 Spellaments as well were pretty big of a buff to fire. Freet is pretty good. Again, the king art is pretty good. Sun Serpent is decent. Dragon is okay. Then we actually saw a couple of buffs as well to like Infernal Salamander, you know, Krampus, and even the new Glimpse, also pretty freaking good, and Phoenix, and Elephant now clears 5 shields. So Fire has just been getting steadily buffed, and you combine this with the fact of the matter they have a lot of cards above damage per pip, like, you know, Sun Serpent, like Everburn, Immolate is pretty good as well, and Ifrit, although it got banned in main deck because it doesn't follow the rules, they did forget to ban it inside deck right now, so a lot of Fires are abusing that. So Fire is just really good. When the opponent can't shield, they have to weakness, and when they have to weakness, you can just simply, you know, maybe dual school into Ice and pack the new Snowman, which also got Giga buffed. I've won so many games dual schooling this on my Fire, so if you are a Fire, I would definitely recommend dual schooling into Ice and getting this new Snowman, guys. It will win you games, trust me. But yeah, Fire stats got Giga buffed, so it's actually a competitive school, and your cards have only gotten buff, and that's why I think it is deserving of the number 3 spot. And if you're a good player, the only matchup you'll probably be losing is to a life, and you can beat the other 6 if you are a good skilled player. Coming in at the number 4 spot, I'm going to actually have to put Ice. Now, Ice is really freaking good. Ice went from probably the worst school with Storm the last update to actually all the way up here. If Life wasn't so broken in the meta, I'd honestly probably put Ice like number 2 or 3, but when Life is really broken, it always indirectly hurts Ice, just kind of how the numbers check out at the end of the day. Your stats are pretty competitive on an Ice, and you can dual school as well. Thieving Dragon is a new spell, which is really good for an aura counter. And when you really think about things, the opponent can't really buff against an Ice Wizard, and if they're trading hits, the Ice Wizard is probably going to win because of how high their tankability is. If you Blade, you simply just get Wyverned, right? If you Aura, you get Thieving Dragoned. And if you bubble, Ice still has the Blimp Pet. That is 2 35% bubble copies that only they have. Ice can also hit around shields with Frostbite, which is above DPP as well still. Lord of Winter is okay. King Art and Mammoth are not bad as well. Then we also saw a Giga buff to the Snowman. I think this card is a demon, and I think more people should honestly be dual schooling it in the game right now. But yeah, man, I think Ice got a Giga buff. I totally forgot about the new Golem as well. The hit and double A-bomb shield, it's just like literally insane. But yeah, as of this update, you simply just got better at everything. You can counter more buffs. The only one you can't counter is traps, but if you set your deck to be good against traps, well, you should be pretty much unstoppable on an Ice. Maybe only losing to like healing, but that's because life is too good. Okay, now I'm gonna do something kind of weird in this tier list. I'm actually gonna have 2 versions of Storm in the tier list, and I'm gonna put number 5 PvE Storm. Right, so PvE Storm is basically the meta right now on the school. It simply just abuses the fact of the matter that there's not really any good counters to single blades or single traps in the game right now. So if you single blade, single trap, and aura with the new owl, you simply can just one-shot basically almost any school except for Ice or Life. But yeah, I mean, I went 48 and 12, I think, on my way to Marshall, Sergeant to Marshall this season, which was pretty freaking fun to do. You know, I like that I'm winning on the Storm. I am seeing some Storms queue and win, although not really anybody's ranking up still, even though the strat's been out for a little while. Okay, coming in at the number 6 spot, I think I'm gonna have to put Myth. Now, people are probably like, Liam, why is Myth all the way down here? The reason why Myth is not very good this update, even though Basilisk is simply the one card in the game that's broken and carrying all the Myth Wizards right now, is the fact of the matter that Ice actually has a good chance against Myth. If Myth did not have Shift against like Death or Ice, they would fall apart. So Ice got really tough to beat on a Myth now. Life got buffed as well. PvE Storm has a good chance against Myth as well. The only way a Myth can beat a Storm right now is simply by abusing the broken Basilisk card in the game. This should have been banned within the last update, but like a Freet, they forgot to ban them, even though they banned them in the main deck and not the side. So you know, assuming that Basti is going to get banned, which it is going to, of course, Myth just kind of doesn't really have anything going for it right now. A lot of people are just buffing and leveraging their hanging effects, like a Storm, for example, or a Fire. And Myth can't really do that at the same rate. You know, if you try to play regular, Myth will always win because their cards are better. I still think Myth is a ridiculous school. Like, if you're a decent player, you can easily get rank with it. Coming at the number 7 and actually the 8th spot as well. Number 7, I'm going to put Balance, and number 8, I'm going to put Regular Storm. Now, I'm going to explain everything in the video here. But Balance basically was getting carried by the old Spellment Hydra, as we all know. Now, I have seen a couple of bounces in queue, and I've only lost like one, even on my Storm. I'm like 5-1 against them. But I think bounces right now are really struggling to adapt to the new meta. I think if you're a good player on a balance, you could probably still rank up. The problem is your job just got way more difficult. And when you think about stuff like, you know, the broken Sabertooth TC that still isn't banned, just like everything else, right? Balance is really reliant on those cards that are just there to carry them. Balance went from the number 1, number 2 school to the one of the worst schools, if not the worst school, simply because Hydra got fixed in the game. If you put like a good balance player against like a decent player who's like, you know, on a top tier school, I think a balance could still win. I'm actually somebody who really enjoys playing balance. I just really hate when it gets into the state of it's so formulaic and you only click Hydra and Sabertooth like the last meta. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have the school not be like all the way at the top and take no brain to play. I like balance. I think it should be one of the more skillful schools in the game. So honestly, in my opinion, I feel like balance is in a decent spot. And if you are a good player, you will still find a way to rank up on it. And like I said, I'm going to put Regular Storm at number 8. I think I need to do this because I think the developers and players don't really understand the game at the highest level of play, right? Because the middle ranks and the low ranks is a completely different game than the higher ranks, guys. So Regular Storm is like back and forth Storm. Okay, so back and forth Storm is stuff like, you know, trading open hits, like a Path A Triton, you know, maybe a Berry, a Thermic Golem, a Catalan, a Catch of the Day, a Stormwing, or maybe going for like a Blade Gambit or an Oni or Thundering Djinn. Regular Storm right now is really bad, and it just got a buff with Berry that actually sets up your Djinn in 1 turn and your Shark conditional, which I think is really good. However, the issue is with that, if they simply cast a counter like a Gearhead Destroyer on a balance, you're just gonna lose, or if they have a heal counter like a Triton or a Pirate, you're just gonna lose. So the counters are too punishing on a Storm, and not punishing enough against a school like Life, and that is simply because the stat burden. Counters don't work against a Life because they can tank out the counters and just keep on healing. On a Storm, if you get countered once by like a, I don't know, a Myth or a Fire packing Triton, that's it. You fall over and you die, you lose, you can't recover. And just going for anything else, like I said, the counters in the game got a lot better, so Regular Storm just isn't really that good. I don't really know what KI could do to buff Regular Storm, you know, aside from giving it stats. Because if we look at Fire, the whole reason Fire got better is all their cards got buffed, but they also got like a 10 Pierce update. So I don't know, I guess they could maybe look into just slightly buffing a couple more of the Storm cards and buffing up their stats, because that seemed to work for the Fire School. So I think it's just going to be kind of in this limbo state it's been in, where it's just not a good school, Regular Storm, until the devs actually want to listen to the community. I know there's going to be some recruits in the comments being like, oh, just bury Jinium. I lost to it at recruit or 1600 rank, by the way. And again, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, you guys don't understand the highest level of play and what happens and how simple things are. Like I said, if I get countered once against a good school, I just fall over and I die. So what, I'm just not supposed to cast spells and sit there and just fall over and die? But yeah, that's everything I got for the video, guys. Let me know if you agree with it in the comments below or not, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for being here, and take care.